It's mid-morning and Detective Leading Senior Constable Stephen Eppingstall and his colleagues are at a house that sits on a gravel road in the country town of Leongatha. They're here because it's Erin Patterson's home and they have a warrant to search it. While they're on site, Erin hands them a phone that they seize. But according to the prosecution, there was another phone that police were never able to find. How that phone fits into their case is what the jury heard today in court. I'm Brooke Grebert-Craig, and this is The Mushroom Cook. It's day 21 of Erin Patterson's murder trial, and I'm here again with my colleague, court reporter Laura Placella.
Good to be here.
As you remember yesterday, Constable Eppingstall took to the stand, and today he continued his evidence. He answered questions on many different topics, so let's start with the most detailed, which is about two of Erin's phones. They have been called Phone A and Phone B in court today.
That's right, and I almost feel like I need to start this out with a disclaimer. This will be some really dense evidence, and it might be confusing for some of our listeners, but we're going to try our hardest to break it down, just like it was broken down in court today by Constable Eppingstall. To quickly give a summary of Phone A and Phone B, the jury were told in the prosecution opening that Phone A was never recovered by police, but Phone B was seized during a search warrant executed at Erin's house on August 5, a week after the lunch. But for now, we'll just start with Phone A. The court has heard that a lot of phone records have been analysed in this case, and Constable Eppingstall said today that 4.5 years of these records showed that Erin used a SIM card ending in the digits 783 for a long time. He said she used this SIM card to communicate with people in her life, including her children and her estranged husband, Simon. These records were shown to the jury today, and the prosecution team almost had to scroll through them because there were so many of them. Constable Eppingstall told the court that the record showed that this SIM card was placed into Phone A on February 12, 2023. If we fast forward, he said this SIM card remained in that phone until August 5. And to remind our listeners, this is the date of the first search warrant, which you heard about in the top of the episode. When asked today about these records and what they showed, Constable Eppingstall said that on August 5, around 1:45 p.m, you could see the SIM card change from Phone A into a completely different phone, that being a Nokia. Yesterday, he told the court that during the search warrant, Miss Patterson was allowed to use a phone in a room on her own without any observation.
So Phone B is the Nokia then?
No, so the Nokia is actually a third phone. It hasn't been given a name, so we're just going to call it the Nokia. Every time we're referring to Phone A or Phone B, we'll use those terms just like they've used in court.
Sounds good.
So Constable Eppingstall told the court that now the SIM card ending in 783 that was being regularly used by Erin was now in this Nokia. And he said that according to the records, there was ongoing usage of this SIM card right up until August 14, which is when the records they had obtained had ended. But he said that months later, on November 2, another search warrant was executed at Erin's house, and this time they were looking for Phone A. He was asked by Crown Prosecutor Jane Warren whether Phone A was ever found. He said it's never been located by police.
Okay, so what you're saying, Laura, is that the records show Phone A was used by Erin in 2023 to communicate with other people, and it was never found by police.
That's right.
Okay, now let's move on to Phone B. What can you tell me about that?
Constable Eppingstall confirmed that Phone B was the phone that Erin handed to police on August 5 during the search warrant. We touched on this in yesterday's episode because a video was played to the jury of that exchange between Erin and Detective Sergeant Luke Farrell. She handed the phone to him towards the end of the search warrant. Constable Eppingstall was then asked questions about the checks he completed on this phone once it was in his custody. He said that the phone had a SIM card inside ending in 835, this being a different SIM card from what we've mentioned earlier. He said the SIM card had only been connected from July 11 that year and had been used in a tablet up until August 3. He then referred back to the records and he said that the SIM card was taken out of the tablet and placed into Phone B on August 3. And just because we are referring to a lot of dates, August 3 is 5 days after the lunch and 2 days before the search warrant.
Our listeners may remember that Digital Forensic Officer Sharman Fox-Henry from Victoria Police said Phone B was factory reset several times in 2023.
Yes, we have touched upon this topic in 2 episodes, and we came back to it again today. Mr. Fox-Henry was asked about a report last week relating to these factory resets. And he said the report showed that Phone B was factory reset 4 times on February 12, August 2, August 5, and August 6.
Let's move on to more of his evidence. The jury heard about Erin's alleged medical appointments.
They did, and to take a step back, Constable Eppingstall explained to the jury how he obtained Erin's Medicare records and was able to use them to determine where and when she went to the doctor. After that process, he said he secured warrants to obtain Erin's medical records from 3 GPs in Leongatha, Currumborough, and Mount Waverley.
Now, the jury was shown entries from Gail Patterson's diary, weren't they?
Yes, and this was happening at the same time that Constable Eppingstall was being asked about the medical records, and it will soon be made clear why that was the case. In Gail's diary, she wrote on June 28, 2023, Erin St Vincent's arm lump. St Vincent's being a reference to a hospital in Melbourne. The jury were then shown messages between Gail and Erin from a day later, on June 29. These are their words, but not their voices.
Hi, Gail. Sorry, I had taken to see a movie last night. We saw The Little Mermaid. The appointment went okay, thanks for asking. I had a needle biopsy taken of the lump, and I'm returning for an MRI next week, and we'll know more about the results of those 2 things.
That's a test of patience, isn't it? Praying you'll know God's peace. We're just ready to relax after an enjoyable time with Ethan and Alice. Nice to have the fire warming us in this cold weather. XO.
After the text messages were shown to the jury, Constable Eppingstall was asked whether or not he found any evidence in Erin's medical records that indicated she did have a needle biopsy on June 28. He said he could not find any evidence of that.
The messages also continued on July 6.
Hi, Erin. How did you get on yesterday with your medical tests? Love, Don and Gail.
And then the next day, Erin replied,
Thanks for your message, Don and Gail. There's a bit to digest with everything that's come out of it all. I might talk more about it with you both when I see you in person. Love, Erin.
Constable Eppingstall was again asked whether he had found any evidence of these medical appointments in Erin's records. He again said he had not. But the court heard that Erin did attend a medical appointment in late June for rib soreness and twice in July to update a prescription.
Now, Constable Eppingstall was also asked questions about Erin's medical history by defence barrister Colin Mandy SC.
That's right. Under cross-examination, the defence tendered more medical records relating to Erin from 2021 in particular. In one of the records from October, a doctor writes, Erin worries about ovary cancer, has been Googling her symptoms, thinks her symptoms may be suggestive of ovary cancer. This record states that an MRI and an ultrasound were booked for the following month in November. Mr. Mandy also showed the jury another medical record, which outlined Erin's family history, and it stated that her paternal aunt and maternal aunt had ovary cancer. It has been a while since we've spoken about cancer, but the prosecution has alleged that Erin falsely claimed she had cancer to ensure and to explain why her children were not present at the lunch on July 29. But the defence has suggested that Erin only told the lunch guests she had a suspected diagnosis of cancer. The defence did concede, though, in its opening address, that Erin has not been diagnosed with cancer.
Now, citizen website iNaturalist also got brought up again today in court. Just to remind listeners, the jury has previously heard evidence from Dr. Tom May and Christine McKenzie about them citing death cap mushrooms and logging this on the website.
iNaturalist came up today in Constable Eppingstall's evidence in chief when he was asked about the Cooler Master computer that was seized from Erin's house. The court heard that 3 web pages relating to iNaturalist were visited by a browser on that computer on May 28, 2022, just making a point that this was 1 year before the lunch. Constable Eppingstall said that as part of his investigation, he searched for these web pages using the URLs that had been extracted from the device. The jury heard that one of these web pages related to a suburban sighting of deathcap mushrooms in Melbourne South East. This post was made on iNaturalist on May 18, 2022, and is a completely separate post from those you mentioned earlier, Brooke, by Dr. May and Miss Mackenzie. A screenshot of this web page taken by Constable Eppingstall was shown to the jury today.
We also heard quite a bit about the food that Erin had previously purchased. The jury was shown a Woolworths transaction history. They were also shown a BP receipt and a pub receipt.
And I may just touch on this pub receipt first because it relates to the topic we were just talking about. The jury heard that on the same day a browser on the Cooler Master computer visited the iNaturalist website, it also visited a website for the Currumborough Middle Pub, only a few minutes later. The jury was shown this receipt that you mentioned, Brooke. The order was placed on May 28, 2022 at 7:25 p.m. On the receipt was Erin's name and her phone number. And at risk of making our listeners hungry, this contained 2 chicken parmas, a kid's burger, a kid's fish, and a Coke no sugar. And the court heard that the computer records showed that this meal had been ordered only a few minutes after the visit to the iNaturalist website.
As I mentioned before, the jury were also shown a receipt for the BP in Coldamine that we had previously spoken about in another episode. On that receipt, it showed 3 separate food items, including T&T Multicolour Blister, which is a gum, a ham and cheese tomato sandwich, and a sweet chili chicken wrap. And just to remind the listeners again, this was the day that Erin drove her son to a flying lesson.
And to round it out, I'll talk about Erin's Woolworths transaction history, which Constable Eppingstall told the court today was recorded through Erin's Everyday Rewards account. Her transaction history from July 23 to July 28, so about the week before the lunch, was shown to the jury, with the items that related to the beef Wellington meal highlighted in yellow. 6 days before the lunch on July 23, the record showed that Erin purchased 1 kilo of sliced mushrooms, 2 packets of pastry, and some shallots. 2 days before the lunch, so this is on July 27, she bought 2 more packets of pastry, 4 beef eye fillets, and 750 grams of sliced mushrooms. And then finally, the day before the lunch, she bought another 2 packets of pastry, 1.5 kilos of potato mash, green beans, and 1 more beef eye fillet. When this transaction history was being shown to the jury on the screens, Constable Eppingstall was asked by Miss Warren what the last column meant, and it was a column relating to the price of each product. But he said that he wasn't quite sure what it was, and at that moment, a juror actually piped up and said, "I do." Justice Christopher Beale quickly turned to the jury and said, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that, but keep your comments for the jury room." After that, Miss Warren did confirm that it was indeed the column relating to the price.
There has been some moments of laughter during his evidence, and he will return to the stand tomorrow to continue his cross-examination. To stay updated on this case, go to themushroomcook.com.au for more.